Hi, everyone. Greetings from Bangladesh. It is an honor to speak at this platform. My heartfelt thanks goes to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I'm going to speak about palliative care in global refugee crisis, and my aim is to show that developing sustainable humanitarian palliative care is quite possible and simply needs some critical attention. Next slide, please. Palliative care is an essential health care included in the universal health coverage. This is a key component to achieve the Sustainable Developmental Goals by 2030. Actually, universal health coverage is not universal until palliative care is available in humanitarian crisis context. Priorities are to improve quality of life and quality of care through health partnership and advocacy. Next slide, please. Globally, 2 billion people are living in humanitarian settings. 80% of them are living in developing world. The grievous point is that by 2030, half of the world's poor people will be living in humanitarian camps. That means we don't have any time to waste as bystanders. We need to take actions. Next slide, please. Palliative care is not a luxury, but essential in emergencies, because even in emergencies, life cycles continue and life-limiting illnesses become even more severe. Suffering is intensified and it becomes complex. When you have complex health problems, people think nothing can be done. Palliative care changes how people see themselves and others. It is life-giving in that it brings value, dignity, and control in emergencies. Palliative care meets people where they are in their sufferings. It is not about a power relationship of doing things to people, but about a partnership of working together to make the life bearable. Next slide, please. Let us look at a case study in Rohingya refugee camps in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh, one of the fastest growing and largest refugee camps in the world. More than 1 million people are living in 34 camps who fled a military conflict in 2017. Hundreds of NGOs were providing health care at that time. However, palliative care was absent in the camps. Then FKRF, a non-profit, that used to support internally displaced people in urban slums through community palliative care services, included refugees in its activities. Next slide, please.
No need to say next slide, just pause.
Thank you.
The internet is slow in getting it to you.
Oh, sure. So I love this picture. It shows earliest barren Rohingya camps. Palliative care is inexpensive and can reduce strain on other areas of healthcare, but it requires training to be delivered effectively. To ensure quality of care, we organize training for community health workers, which are actually critical for palliative care initiation, particularly in a country like Bangladesh, where palliative care is not yet a part of national health system. The FKRF trained a tiny group of 10 young Rohingyas to become palliative care assistants who started roaming around the camp door to door to find patients with serious diseases. We did a situation analysis and found that 73% of patients with incurable diseases did not receive adequate treatment for pain. 68% could not afford medicines. With this background, FKRF started a home-based palliative care service for patients with serious diseases. Within just 2 months, we reached 1,500 patients with life-threatening or life-limiting diseases. Every story was unique. Let us listen to a little child's story. This is Mojibur, a 10-year-old Rohingya boy living in Cox's Bazar refugee camp. In early December 27, I went to a field hospital where one of our female patients was undergoing a breast cancer surgery. The hospital team was elated, having a palliative care physician over there. They were in a difficult position with this boy, just diagnosed with osteosarcoma, for whom they didn't have any surgical option. They requested me to provide home care to this boy, although I choked, as I was totally uncertain about how I was going to help this little boy. Next day, we went to their tent. He lived with his mother and two little sisters. His father was missing. The neighbors told me that Mojibur and his mother cried whole of the last night. I asked Mojibur, "Why did you cry?" He answered, "I heard doctors telling my mother that I am going to die soon." His mother recalled, "While fleeing from Myanmar, people told me to kill my son with poison because his disease is not going to be cured." I examined the boy. He was in severe pain, could not move, walk, and needed constant care by somebody else for the last 6 months. We started pain treatment. Then a miracle happened. After 10 days of pain treatment, Mojibur started limping. After 2 months of pain treatment, Mojibur could walk pain-free, play with his football, and even smile a little. In the past, Mojibur was a healthy, football-loving boy. His nickname was Bhusha. Bhusha is a Rohingyan word meaning buffalo. We made health partnerships with local NGOs and global leaders from across the world. As I reflect back, I feel incredibly fortunate to have met many wonderful people who provided ongoing support and encouragement on this journey. This work would not have taken place without their help. I would like to take the opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to all of them. Thank you. Thank you for making this journey so meaningful. Thank you. Through advocacy, our aim was to make more connection, to influence and support incurable patients' voices to be heard. We had meetings with civil surgeon, triple commissioner, FDMN coordinator, health sector coordinator, other NGOs, Majis, imams, and so many others. We reminded clinicians about how they could help refugees along with the host population needing palliative care. I will wrap up with this slide. A new era has been started. From January 2020, IOM has been providing palliative care in Rohingya camps. So we can see that even in a viral pandemic, a sustainable humanitarian palliative care service can be established with careful attention to two priority points: health partnership and advocacy. And what I also want to tell you today is that when problems are complex, solutions need innovative measures. I want you to think in a new way, and I also want you to take actions. If you are a health professional, spare some of your precious time for refugees with serious health-related sufferings. If you are a philanthropist, give money to charities that make a difference for refugees with incurable diseases. And when you are in a position of leadership in humanitarian settings, you have to create a base camp, not only for patients who would survive acute injuries, but to respect people who are already at the end of their lives and give dignity to help them die peacefully. And each one of us has a personal responsibility to help make it so. I look forward to having any questions from you.